Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. I'm not gay. So what is Jake Lang doing? Jake Lang is doing a bunch of controversial things that are getting people's attention. I don't approve of his tactics, but what he's doing is something that can be seen as helpful because people are playing stupid about racism, and he's making it clear that the country is out of control, the rules are illogical, there's not enough police officers, okay, that poor people are very angry, among other people, and obviously some other people are angry too, and that we need a sound economic plan. Because in the absence of a sound economic plan, there's a domino effect. People turn to crime, and people who are ignorant, they get mad and blame the victims who are the victims of a failed economic system, a failed corporate system, a failed social, political, and economic system. We live in a sort of behind-the-scenes feudal system where corporations and people from governing class lines and social clubs who have a certain status in those social clubs, their families have a certain status, they're expressing power in a way that is extremely immoral. Their worldly power is a disgrace. So as we look at the situation, we have to ask ourselves, what should America do about Jake Lang and people like that and the various protests, right? First of all, we need more police officers. The protests are as dangerous as how many police officers you don't have, kind of thing, right? The more you lack police officers, the more dangerous the protests are. They're also as dangerous as your economy isn't fair. If you redistributed, say $10 trillion in the next, we'll say 10 years, it wouldn't kill you, right? But you have to put most of it into rehabs and affordable housing and housing for the homeless and food programs, and have a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars in extra oversight and citizen committees, right? And then you would have a different social dynamic that would allow for free speech without the government saying, hey, we can't allow you to protest any way you want because people have been causing trouble when they do that. You want to be able to protest in a way that reflects what you actually believe and not accepting the boundaries of the government beast. It's pretty straightforward. So as we look at the system, we know that crime and poverty, crimes that tend to be disproportionately addressed, right? When the poor commits crimes, they're more likely to be addressed. When the rich commit crimes, for the most part, they're operating with impunity. They're committing all kinds of federal offenses in regards to financial crimes, white-collar crimes, organized terrorism that's coming from corporations, what have you, and they're operating with relative impunity. So I urge people to rally together for my 10% redistribution plan, which is 10% of the 170 trillion that the top 50% have. Now there's different ways you could do the plan, right? You could do it in terms of giving the bottom 50 10% more. You can do it in terms of just 10% of the top 50%, which is like 17 trillion over 30 years, And if they can't go liquid that fast, they can sign over some of their stocks, and assets to some degree in order to, accomplish that. Now keep in mind, this is a no-brain plan. If the money was all redistributed right away, which is not the plan, the bottom 50% would have 20 trillion, and the top 50% would have 153 trillion. Why on earth is that not okay or sustainable? Plus, the vast majority of it would be in infrastructure. It would assist the farm food redistribution plan, also a massive farming plan. It would build rehabs. It would build affordable housing. It would hire more police officers, stuff like this. So it's being redistributed in terms of goods and services that disproportionately help the poor and are aimed first and foremost at the poor. It would eliminate child hunger, what have you. We could also work with other countries to easily end world hunger. One estimate puts it at only $30 billion a year to end, world hunger. Now, America spends $7 trillion. If we team up with the other 70 or so developed nations, or however many there are, okay, it should be very easy. Let's say there's 30 of them. It's only $1 billion a year on average, progressively, based on, the size of the economy, what have you. It should be very easy to do. And 9 million people starve to death every year. That includes 3 million children. So why aren't people coming together to solve these problems? Certainly a lot of academics, a lot of left-wing people, a lot of people, who think of themselves as Christians, what have you, have come up with ideas to solve these problems, and they're being ignored, and people aren't rallying to them, they're not organizing, and that is a huge problem. The least of America's concerns is that people get hurt at these sort of protests, these Jake Lang protests. There are over 2 million preventable American deaths every year. Okay, over 2 million. There's 17,000 homicides every year in America. And that's peanuts compared to the 2 million preventable deaths that occur every year, including 500,000 preventable deaths from cigarette smoking. And there's all kinds of innovative ways that we can come up with to keep people from smoking cigarettes. There's cultural adjustments, there's social adjustments, financial adjustments, corporate adjustments. Okay, there's effective discussions that need to take place. Even Donald Trump pointed out that there needs to be in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations. But then, just like with his arguments about ending homelessness, he didn't kind of follow through and, really lead people into a situation where those discussions take place. Thank you.